So, good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to Torino. For the non-Italians in the room, that video speaks to a true Italian dream, one that started 125 years ago. So, why are we here? We are here to celebrate that dream and take it forward for another century. So, great to see you all here, our friends from media, my colleagues and teammates, our government officials, so the Minister of Enterprise and Made in Italy, benvenuto, the Vice President of the Italian Senate, ciao Licia, the Presidente of the Piemonte region, and the Mayor of Torino. Welcome all. And finally, last but not least, welcome Carlos Tavares and welcome John Elkann. So thank you all for making the time today. So as you can see here, we have 4 speakers, which means that we will be switching between Italian and English. So please be ready to grab the headphones when needed. So now, the agenda for today, a few words from Minister Urso, then Mr. Tavares for the opening remarks, then I will share our vision for the Fiat brand and leave the stage to our chairman for the closing remarks. And finally, after the speeches, we will officially open Casa Fiat, our museum here. Thank you, Ginevra, for this beautiful gift in occasion of our birthday. So now, Signor Ministro, grazie per farci l'onore della sua presenza, le cedo il palco.
Thank you. Thank you also on behalf of President Giorgia Meloni for your invitation. Obviously, I greet all those present, the Mayor, the President of the region, and all of you. I thank you for having invited me to celebrate a brand that for so many decades has embodied the values of a country that tended towards social and economic growth and contributed to creating a national identity. Since I belong to that generation that dreamt of having motorways, dreamt of having a Fiat on a motorway, and experienced the economic and social miracle of those days, since I too feel fairly emotional about all this, I've preferred, unlike what I normally do, I've preferred to read my speech. Since 1889, Fiat has accompanied the growth of Italy from north to south, first north and then south, with a pioneering vision and a constant engagement for over a century. It's been a symbol of excellence and innovation. It has evoked artists, painters, sculptors. A racing car with its bonnet, with its exhaust pipes, a roaring automobile that seems like a machine gun. It's more beautiful than the victory of Samothrace. With the imagination of Marinetti, we saw the first competitions in artistic, the exhaust pipes of the Fiat that won the Grand Prix de France were described by the artist as snakes, serpents, whereas the S74 and 76 Fiats are used for speed records in the early part of the century. They were the plastic representation of the world that the futurists back then dreamt of. Under the guidance of Giovanni Agnelli, the company opened the plant in Turin, the Lingotto plant. Fiat was in Turin, was Turin. Back then, it was the greatest industrial plant in Europe. And we can't accept that it become a mere industrial museum. This period, that period, saw the presentation of models like the Fiat 500 Topolino that became the iconic symbol of that period. That was also celebrated with many homages, with the Italian dream. And that was perhaps the model that transformed automobiles from an object to desire to something that was accessible for all and favored social democratization back then. Fiat was a significant part of the Italian GNP, especially during the boom of the 50s and 60s, when Italy, against all forecasts back then, experienced a great economic growth that astonished the world. Today is also this opportunity, it's the opportunity to celebrate the sacrifices of tens of thousands of Italian families, of workers, consumers, and taxpayers too, who are at the basis of Fiat's success. Especially after the Second World War, Turin and other northern Italian cities became hubs that attracted thousands of workers from the southern regions, a social phenomenon that changed Turin and the north of the country. Fiat needed labor, and the south responded. A system that from between 1958 and 1963, more than 3 million people abandoned their homes, their cities, their villages in the south to move to central and northern Italy, especially the great cities of the industrial triangle, where 800,000 people moved, a great internal migration, with especially Turin as destination. The promise of stable work led many families to move, and these migration flows changed in a radical way the demographic situation of these cities with the creation of new communities, a phenomenon that generated great social phenomena and the integration of the migrants back then who came from rural agricultural contexts, and they integrated into the urban context and favored the birth of a new generation of citizens who gained literacy and had more technical skills as well. It was years in which one strongly felt the social role of enterprises, a context in which trade unions and workers and enterprises shared the same values and the same objectives. And I remember the words of Avvocato Agnelli, words that summarize the spirit of the times. The success of Fiat, said Agnelli, is the success of Italy. We are proud to represent our country worldwide. Factories are not just a place in which production takes place, but they are progress drivers for the whole nation. And I hope that that is still the case. We must work together for this to continue to be the case. Factories are a nation, and to support Fiat, the infrastructure of the country developed with significant public investments to the point that before others we created a motorway network like the Autostrada del Sole, the most important infrastructure of the time, inaugurated in 1964 to connect Italy, Milan, Naples, Bologna, Florence, Rome. It was the showcase of an industrial leadership of what was rightly defined the Italian miracle. And the later decision as well to expand one's presence to southern Italy, a decision that was taken in the 60s and 70s, was part of a national strategy of industrial decentralization that aimed at decentralizing industrial concentration in the north and favoring development in the south. Fiat's investments in Mezzogiorno in southern Italy that were generously and rightly also supported by the government, by significant public resources. These led to the creation of thousands of direct and indirect jobs, improving the economic conditions of many local communities. The presence of industrial plants, Termini, Merese, Cassino, Melfi, Pomigliano, this stimulated the local economy through the ancillary industry, generating new opportunities to develop our territory. Many then invented their own small business around Fiat. And that ancillary industrial model district hubs with small and medium-sized enterprises today must be preserved because it is absolutely part of the production distinctiveness of our country. It's not an anomaly, but it is the strength of the Italian system, all the more so in this new era in which globalization necessarily has to be rearticulated into production continents. This will also be the course taken by Europe, our Europe, as we see from the decisions that are currently being taken. In these 125 years, Fiat has proven an amazing ability to adapt and has faced with determination its challenges over the years. It's innovated, it's invested in R&D, it's kept the Made in Italy flag high in the world, also through its ability to involve our national designers in industrial projects, and it found great benefit from having identified itself with Italy. And today too, Stellantis, quite rightly, uses Made in Italy in its products, right from their names, because it's well aware, as we are too, of what the global market considers the Italian style to be excellence and elegance, what is beautiful, what is well made. I remember Giorgetto Giugiaro, who with his design was asked to design the Panda that was launched in 1980, and then the Fiat Uno in 1983. Sleek lines in a design that combined aesthetics and practicality. And I also would like to mention Roberto Giolito, another great designer who had a crucial role in some of Fiat's emblematic models, including the Fiat 500 in 2007, and was able to rebreathe light into an icon of the 1950s, summing within himself retro elements with modern needs, identity and innovation, like in the productive history of our country. The various stages of the historic brand are also personalities who marked their era. I'm thinking of Romiti, who stabilized the company during difficult times, or Sergio Marchionne, who transformed Fiat into a global brand. History, they teach us, is made by individuals, not by the market. Today, we remember what Italian automobiles were, the pride of our country, the fruit of the sacrifice of whole generations of work. Fiat was the Italian industry, and Italy was always at Fiat's side. And today we have to find again the necessary cohesion and social responsibility to allow this history and story to continue, this glorious history to continue with Stellantis as well. It's more than a year now that we've been working for this to happen. We've been doing so with determination and constance, and the time has now come for choices and responsibility. Article 1 of the Constitution that I have given Tavares during our first meeting, as he well remembers, I'm sure, last June, more than a year ago, Article 1 states that the Italian Republic is founded on work, not on profit. Profit is legitimate, absolutely so, but not at any cost. Article 41 states that enterprise is a social activity, as Mr. Agnelli knew so well, and I quote him again, "Everything I have, I inherited. My grandfather did it all. I owe everything to inheritance, and I have added to this," he said, "the duty of responsibility." the duty of responsibility. The enterprise that founded Italian industry must therefore take upon itself the social responsibility of relaunching automobiles in Italy, fully respecting labor and sacrifice of whole generations in respect of what Fiat has given to Italy. It's been absolutely extraordinary support to social development of the country, not only economic development, and what Italy has given Fiat. We want to work together, as we always wish to do, to recreate the links of this success story, and that Italy return to being the success of Italy and the dream of Italy.
Good afternoon to all of you, and my apologies for not speaking Italian. I thought it was better to speak to you in English rather than in Portuguese. But for the next time, you will have the choice. So welcome, a warm welcome to you all, dear guests and my dear friends. I'm delighted to share this important milestone with you here in Torino. Thank you for joining us today for the second big anniversary within the Stellantis constellation this year, the 125th anniversary of Fiat. I'm very happy to join you today, as I was happy a few weeks ago to join Opel for the same kind of anniversary, 125 years of Opel, and we could make this celebration with Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Like Opel, Fiat is a fitting example of our deep history and iconic brands portfolio. Let's put it this way. Our brands are our prized jewels, and we love them. Each star in our 14-brand portfolio makes Stellantis unique in the automotive industry. We have British, American, German, French brands, plus our newest from China, Leapmotor, and of course, our beloved Italian brands. Fiat, Alfa Romeo, Lancia, and Maserati bring Italian flavors to the hearts of our customers worldwide with their uniqueness and complementarity. As you well know, Fiat is a long love story, a story of resilience. Fiat survived through different legal entities, through different political regimes, and through different wars. And Fiat always comes out stronger. Its heart has been beating here for 125 years and will pulse long into the future. Olivier will soon speak about the new chapters. It's a story that brings us so much joy, so much culture, and so much well-made products. A story that unfolds now with many great wins as a global brand of Stellantis. And I'd like to share with you a few facts. For the third year in a row, Fiat is the #1 Stellantis brand in terms of volume, with 1.35 million units sold worldwide, 1.35 million of customers. The Fiat 500 is sold in 48 countries and has been awarded 43 international prizes. It is the most awarded Fiat model ever. Fiat leads in 4 domestic markets: Italy, Brazil, Turkey, and Algeria, and continues to lead in the South American region. 70% of Fiats sold to Italian customers are produced in Italy. 59% of Fiats produced in Italy are exported, contributing to the overall figure of 63% of cars produced in Italy exported by Stellantis, all positively supporting Italy's trade balance. The 500e is designed and made in Torino. It is a symbol of Italian creativity and is winning over fans of made in Italy products around the world. Beyond passenger cars, Fiat is leading in the commercial vehicle segment with over 120 years of history at the Atessa plant, one of the largest in the world. As you can well understand, Fiat is driving the charge to offer clean, safe, and affordable mobility for the citizens. Of course, do not expect us to stop at this point. There is much more to come from Fiat. Under the Stellantis era, as Stellantis is bringing to Fiat a strong product plan and the technology needed to adapt to a fast-changing world. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the world is changing. Today, of course, would not be possible without our colleagues, La Gente della Fiat. Thank you sincerely to all of you who hold Fiat so dear and work every day to ensure another 125 years of its story. This care is often handed down from generation to generation because, you know, Fiat is a family. Humble and hard-working. A family that shares the same passion, the same desire to always be innovative, agile, and humanistic, giving us the ability to understand the world and how to make our customers smile. Thank you to our Fiat dealers who carried the promise of our commitment to our customers. Thank you to our suppliers who contribute to offering our customers the best mobility solutions with a competitive spirit. Thank you to our external stakeholders who are supporting us in our endeavor. Everything this brand has achieved past and future is down to these efforts. Please respect Fiat. I'm so proud of what Fiat brings to Stellantis: a global footprint, leadership in 3 continents, Italian design, ingenuity, smart and affordable solutions with customers always at the center. Fiat is an Italian hero with worldwide success. As one of the largest employers in Italy with over 40,000 employees, which makes up 17% of our global workforce, Torino is the beating heart in this country. Earlier this year, we announced Mirafiori Automotive Park 2030. This project represents a new commitment to Italy with 8 new activities, and they were added since we created Stellantis. The e-dual clutch transmission workforce and workshop, the battery technology center, the circular economy hub, the Pro1 and mobility sites, data global headquarters, as well as the upcoming new green campus, among others. 8 new projects that were brought to the Mirafiori compound. These are perfect examples of our continued investment in Italy, and they tell our people that we will win together. If we make our customers happy with great quality and appealing models, the future is in our hands and we control our destiny. Looking ahead, we should all be convinced that the world's competition is intensifying. We must cope with this evidence. The status quo is not an option. If we don't adapt, we will disappear. And this is not at all an option that we consider. That's why we have outlined a vision for our future in our Therefore 2030 long-term strategic plan. This is a transparent plan that any of you can read. In it, we remain committed to clean, safe, and affordable mobility. Today, we are number 3 in the BEV market in Europe, competing for the second rank with the American brand that we all know, and soon with the Chinese competitors. In fact, 4 out of 10 city car BEVs in Europe are now Fiat 500es. But fixing global problems requires global solutions and global entities like Stellantis. We are entering a new era of climate action, and we are on track to achieve carbon neutrality ahead of our competitors by 2038. This is our bold commitment to a more sustainable future for all of us, and Fiat will be a key contributor to achieving it. As I wrap up, I'd like to take a moment to share a final thought with you. So much of a brand's legacy is defined by what comes after. I have great confidence in what's to come for Fiat, and I have no doubt that much success will still be forthcoming. Be as proud of the Fiat brand, its history, its founders, and its people as much as I am. Please respect Fiat, as Fiat will survive all of us. Thank you for your attention. Grazie mille.
Grazie Ministro. Obrigado, Carlos.
Thank you, Minister. Obrigado, Carlos. Well, the title of this celebration is Smiling to the Future. But in the meantime, I'm also smiling today because we actually made it. It wasn't easy. We had to make it. It was a question of respect for the people who created this company on that July 11th, 125 years ago, and out of respect for the employees who kept Fiat's flag flying. I see some of them sitting here in the audience. How wonderful to see you here today. And lastly, respect for the people who made Fiat great. I mean, its customers. Because after all, without our customers, we wouldn't be here today, would we? So now let's say something about the brand Fiat, or rather F-I-A-T. You see, today we're celebrating the birthday of a brand that's never betrayed the 4 letters that make up its name. Fabbrica, because Fiat has always produced and will continue to produce. Italiana, because the company's DNA was and always will be Italian. And I, who have had the honor of leading it for 13 years now, am proud to be Italian by adoption. Automobili, because we are what we do. And what do we do? Well, we make cars bursting with love and joy and as brightly colored as our amazing country. And lastly, Torino, because, as Carlos always says, Turin is one of Stellantis' 3 beating hearts, together with Paris and Detroit. However, I'd like to tell you about another meaning. It's something I learned almost 20 years ago from Sergio Macchione. I'd recently joined the company. I wasn't yet a Fiat CEO, but I was already acting CMO. So I asked Sergio the typical CMO question: can you define the brand for me in 1 sentence? And Sergio replied, it's simple. Fiat is the brand of social relevance. Well, you know what? In 20 years, I haven't found a better definition. That's exactly what Fiat is. Take the 500. As our minister reminded us, in the 50s, it democratized mobility in Italy. And today, it's doing the same in Algeria. We're producing it there for the local market. And as of 2020, the 500 has become the champion of electric mobility in our cities. You heard Carlos, who mentioned a figure in Europe. Out of 100 small electric cars, 40 are this one, made here in Turin, proudly made here in Turin. But as Carlos said, there are other 13 equally iconic brands in the Stellantis portfolio. So what value does Fiat deliver? Well, I suppose I could say that it delivers its own particular formula. sustainable cars that are clearly technological, but we like to make them easy to use, reassuring, iconic design, even a bit aspirational, but we want them also to be accessible and inclusive. And then a distinctly Italian DNA, but with global appeal. So you see, it's not a predictable formula, but it's through this formula that we become leaders in 3 different continents, and as you've heard, within Stellantis as well. So certainly a brand to bank on, and above all, a brand to invest in. Because, let's be honest, until the launch of Stellantis, Fiat had to be sacrificed a bit to support the other former FCA Galaxy brands. But then came Stellantis with an incredible acceleration to everything. Just imagine, in a matter of weeks, the brand found people who saw its potential. You, Carlos. People who were willing to invest in the brand, which is what we're doing, as you'll be seeing shortly. And people who had the technological basis, the technology to do so. That's what Stellantis brought us. So from that moment on, the new course of the Stellantis Fiat was set up in 2 steps, or 2 seasons, as they say. Step 1, the iconic Fiat. Step 2, the global Fiat. Well, what about the iconic Fiat? Well, it's already well underway. I'm referring to the world of the Cinquecento, the one that carries with it the idea of Dolce Vita. We started from that iconic side, obviously because it sells well, but also because it's our business card the world over.
La 500 del 57, la più iconica.
So there it is, the iconic 1957 500, well-loved over the world and loved for 67 years. Sure, I understand being nostalgic for internal combustion engines, but it does stink, doesn't it? And then there was the 91 model, boxy years, the one made in Poland, and then the one that the minister spoke of, the 2007 one designed by Roberto Giolito, which was produced in Tychy in Poland in more than 3 million units, a success that spanned 17 years. And then in 2020 came the new model. This is the 500 Mirafiori, because this one too is now being assembled in Italy again. We've returned from Poland to Mirafiori, and then thanks to Stellantis, 2 sisters have completed the family, the 600 and the Topolino. And who else could have made them so beautiful, if not the pencils of the designers at our style center in Turin, our Centro Stile. So this is the 600 Abarth that you've never seen. This is an absolute preview, but I've decided to show it to you because we're sure that electric automobiles are the future of urban mobility. But what about sports mobility? Well, that's less obvious here in this country. But the news is that in November, you'll be testing this model, the 600 Abarth, the most powerful and spirited ever. But we'll be back about that at a later date. However, what's clear is that, especially in Italy, there's still no consensus about electric cars. So we also have to focus on hybrid models. In fact, the 600 Hybrid is arriving in dealerships in the next few days. And then, as I announced in the Mirafiori video, the 500 Hybrid will also be with us in 18 months' time. Actually, about videos, I wanted to say a big thank you to our millions of social media followers, because as Carlos said, the world is changing, and this has become a well-established way of communicating for us. The figures are incredible. However, in the Mirafiori video, there's one thing I totally forgot to mention, and this is the name of the 500 Hybrid trim. It's a name that came from a conversation I had with our mayor. Good evening, Stefano. Nice to see you here. I don't know whether you actually remember, but you'd said to me, you should use the name Torino. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's actually what we did. There's a new hybrid model. There'll be a 500 Torino that will take the name and skyline of Torino all over the world. So thank you, Mayor, for your input.
Questa sono io, appena nata. Sono partita da Torino, ma non mi sono mai posta limiti. Prima Desio, poi Palermo. Io però volevo di più. Io volevo arrivare ovunque. Austria, Germania, America, Nuova Zelanda. Nel 2007 mi sono fatta qualche ritocchino. Il mondo era cambiato e io volevo essere in gran forma per riconquistarlo. E così è stato. Anche nel 2020 mi hanno notata tutti. Eppure non facevo nessun rumore. Da quando sono nata, ho fatto felici 6.700.000 persone in tutto il mondo, macinando miliardi di chilometri. E adesso, che di anni ne ho 67, sento il bisogno di ritornare a casa.
Allora, adesso
So now I'd like to close with a 500 that doesn't come from Turin. It comes from Milan. We're not going to call it the Milano. But after all, Milan is to fashion as Turin is to automobiles. And above all, it's home to Giorgio Armani, Milan, Italy's greatest fashion designer. So ladies and gentlemen, here is, or rather, here are the Giorgio Armani 500s. So Fiat 500 and Armani, two icons of Italian style that have worked together. And there'll be a global launch in January. So perhaps you'll tell me it was a bit too early to be showing them today. Yes, but we couldn't resist. And do you know why? Well, because today, 11th of July, 2024, is also the Maestro's 90th birthday. And I'd say that calls for candles. Do we have candles? You see, there are some signs that can't be ignored. Sometimes things are meant to be. So I want to thank Giorgio, who is personally involved in every step of the project, and even the commercial that I'm about to show you.
Le strade vuote, deserte senza te, leggo il tuo nome ovunque intorno a me. Torna da me, amore, e non sarà più fatta la città. Ed io vivrò con te tutti i miei giorni, tutti i miei giorni, tutti i miei giorni.
Great. Okay, now we can move on from the iconic Fiat to the global Fiat, Chapter 2. Let's start with a fact. Our history has been global for 125 years, but if there's one thing that's never changed, it's that the head and heart of this global story have always stayed here in Turin. So it's from its base in Turin that Fiat pioneered globalization even before it became a buzzword. Let's remember, for instance, the 124 that was produced in Italy, Spain, the Soviet Union, Turkey, Egypt, even Korea. Then came the 1100. In India, it actually remained in service for a good 60 years. And then there's another example, the 127, that made a name for itself in Europe, in Asia, and in South America. These models, what do they have in common? Well, they share the fact that they've been global blockbusters. So they're somewhat our inspiration for Fiat's future. They're models that can be assembled anywhere and sold everywhere. And that's exactly the mandate Carlos has given us, because while we have many successful models today, it's also true that they're more regional, as you see here, than global. So now instead we can shift from lots of local champions to a few truly global superstars. I say we can because thanks to Stellantis, we have exactly the platform we need globally, and it's smart, and I'll be explaining later why it's smart. So to meet this challenge, we went back to our cardinal values: sustainability, inclusiveness, simplicity, and beauty. And as our style inspiration, we turned to a little masterpiece from the 80s. Yes, the Panda. This too has a nice combustion engine smell. But anyway, Panda is truly a car for socializing, for sharing. It's really the blue jeans of the car world. It's the opposite of ego. So here are the three generations of the Panda: the original inspiration, a brilliant design by Giugiaro, the minister mentioned this, then the Panda of the millennium, assembled in Tychy, and lastly, today's Panda that's been brought back to Italy and is made in Pomigliano. So an incredible success story, 44 years long Panda success story with 8 million units produced, and its success continues. And I was showing the figures to Carlos yesterday. This year again, the Panda is the unchallenged leader among city cars. 1 city car in 4 in Europe is a Panda produced in Pomigliano, and in Italy, no less than 1 in 2. So it really is an amazing success. So to create our global blockbuster family, we started precisely from this DNA, from this success. And we obviously cloned it into an accessible, family-friendly B-segment car, because that was what we were missing the most: 4 meters, inclusive, sustainable, frugal, and very comfortable. A Fiat par excellence. So the last cars that were comparable size-wise were the Punto and the 500L. And in terms of the space to roominess ratio, the 500L, which had been made in Serbia until 2 years ago, was an excellent solution, but the 500's appeal didn't match the frugal, functional mission I just described. So we focused on the appealing design of the Panda and on the smart platform. Why is it smart? Well, it's global, it's multi-energy, electric, hybrid, and ICE, and scalable. Various dimensions and segments as well.
Felicità e tenersi per mano, andare lontano, la felicità e il tuo sguardo innocente in mezzo alla gente, la felicità e restare vicini come bambini, la felicità, felicità, felicità. È un cuscino di piume, l'acqua del fiume che passa e che va, e la pioggia che scende dietro le tende, la felicità, e abbassare la luce per fare pace, la felicità, felicità, è una sera sorpresa, la luna accesa, la radio che va, è un biglietto d'auguri pieno di cuori, la felicità, è una telefonata non aspettata, la felicità, 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 è una spiaggia di notte, l'onda che batte, la felicità, è una mano sul cuore piena d'amore, la felicità, e cantare 2 voci quanto mi piace, la felicità. Senti nell'aria c'è già la nostra canzone d'amore che va, come un pensiero che sa di felicità. Senti nell'aria c'è già un raggio di sole più caldo che va, come un sorriso che sa di felicità. tenersi per mano, andare lontano, la felicità. E il tuo sguardo innocente in mezzo alla gente, la felicità. E restare vicini come bambini, la felicità. Felicità, felicità. È un cuscino di piume, l'acqua del fiume che passa e che va.
Smiling to the future, right? I'm delighted by your applause. It bodes well for the official presentation at the end of the year. In fact, today is only a preview, but I had made a promise and I didn't want to renege on it. In fact, do you know what the only thing backing out here is? The cable. You see? It goes back. You see, inventiveness is never an optional extra on a Fiat, never. Nor is accessibility. It's a little early as yet, but anyway, there will be an electric Fiat under 25,000 euros. It'll be an electric car that's beautiful, has a pedigree, not low cost, but love cost. I can already hear the questions. Well, there were other cars in the Geneva video. Where are they? Well, you missed them. They were here, right here, just a few days ago on the track. Well, sorry about the pixels, but otherwise I'll have nothing left to tell you next year, will I? Anyway, you get the idea, don't you? These objects are already a concrete reality, at least for us, we're working at them. So this is how we're preparing Fiat's great comeback to the global mainstream. Italian design and development, global platforms, local relevance. And based on these principles, we aim to have the right offer for every customer, because we believe, as you, Carlos, said as well, we believe that at the center of everything lies the customer. So what does our customer ask of us? Well, what we've always delivered and what you'll find here on the track this evening. Iconic city cars that are frugal and inclusive, compact, family mobility, and lastly, professional vehicles, a great source of pride for our brand, undisputed leader in 4 countries and 3 continents. So these are the links between our past, our present, and certainly also our future. So what will Fiats be like in 125 years' time? Quite frankly, I'm not all that sure, but one thing I'm certain, they won't be presented by an avatar or by artificial intelligence, because Fiat is the brand for human beings, and to develop it, it will always need human values, passion, dedication, and love. Love for our brand, love for the customers who choose our brand, and love for Italy, because, as they say, true love stories never end. Thank you, and now I'll hand over to our chairman. Good evening. Welcome, Minister, authorities, ladies and gentlemen. We're at the Lingotto today. We're here to celebrate 125 years since Fiat was founded right in the heart of Turin on the 11th of July, 1899, began the story of a brand that was unique in the world. It had a unique asset too, Italian inventiveness. That unfailing ability to do much with very little. To develop cars that would later become part of this country's collective imagination. During those years of transition between the two centuries, Turin took a decisive direction. It was to become the capital of technological progress. Fiat was born precisely from this combination, a passion for progress, of which the first cars in those years represented the most advanced expression, and a capacity for engineering that was amongst the most advanced, and this in part thanks to the Turin Polytechnic. And I would like to greet the rector of the Turin Polytechnic, with which we continue to entertain excellent relations and collaboration. Let's go back to the first years of automobiles. Of the more than 100 car companies that appeared in Italy in the early 20th century, about half of them actually in Turin alone, Fiat was one of the few that managed to make the transition from an artisanal phase to an industrial one. After a trip to Detroit, my great-great-grandfather, Giovanni Agnelli, who had been impressed by Ford's production capacity, initiated a program that was to lead to the construction of the Lingotto, this plant where we are today, that was founded in 1923, just a century ago. And he announced at the time that it was to be a brand new plant, the only means of facing up to domestic and foreign competition, allowing for lower prices. It sounds rather like what we continue to have to face up to today. And that was the beginning of a great adventure, a great success. Fiat began to mass-produce cars for everyone. This has been, and still is, the heart, the essence of a brand like Fiat. And that is to offer beautiful, versatile, and affordable cars. And you'll soon have the possibility of seeing them on the track, not only those of our past that Minister Urso mentioned, but also those of our present and future, because we continue to build great cars in Italy too. For millions of people, Fiat became the freedom to move wherever they wanted and to do so in style. It was true yesterday, and it's still true today. But back to the 500 now. The 500 Olivier was telling us about. The version designed by Dante Giacosa symbolized the Italian boom. It was sold all over the world and was displayed at the MoMA in New York as a stylish, practical, and affordable model. The same features can be found in today's 500. The electric car is the most award-winning car ever in the history of our brand. It's made not far from here in Mirafiori, but it's sold everywhere. Almost 70 years after its debut, the 500 continues to deliver the world over that unmistakable style that made it an Italian icon. It is precisely its presence in markets all over the world that has been Fiat's hallmark since it was established. Speaking of which, I reread what my grandfather Gianni Agnelli said on the occasion of the centenary of the company 25 years ago. And he said, Fiat's close ties with this country have coexisted with a strong international outlook that has never waned. As early as the 1920s, 2/3 of the company's turnover was made outside Italy. Indeed, after the launch of its first plant here in Turin, in Corso Dante, Fiat immediately focused on its international development, first of all Europe and then the world. So much so that today Fiat is present in over 70 countries worldwide. Being a profoundly Italian brand has never hampered its international development. Quite the contrary. Exporting our Italian creativity has made the world fall in love with Italy. As Carlos recalled, Fiat today is the first brand of the Stellantis portfolio, which we're proud to have helped create 3 years ago together with Carlos. Thanks to Stellantis, Fiat has been able to win over more and more customers. Beyond the rest of the world, Fiat remains the best-loved brand for Italians, with models such as the Panda produced in Pomigliano, which has topped the list of most popular cars in this country for years. And if these results have been possible, it's first and foremost thanks to the 40,000 people who work for Stellantis in Italy, stretching from northern to southern Italy. Concern for our people, for our communities, has always been paramount in our history. I think of the staples that were distributed to the population of Turin after the Second World War bombing. And more recently, the support we gave the region of Emilia-Romagna after the floods, or even the Fiat vacation colonies that, after the war, allowed thousands of children to spend their holidays by the sea and in the mountains, not to mention our commitment to education, through thousands of scholarships that we still today, as back then, continue to give to deserving students. It's a tradition of engagement which has never stopped and which will always continue because it's very much part of our identity, of who we are. Before wrapping up, I would like to share a few personal thoughts which I have developed over these years in which I have worked in Fiat and in Stellantis, let's say from the 99 centenary to the present day. Fiat has been through crises, wars, natural disasters. In my case, these last 25 years have been very tough. I and we have also worried that we wouldn't make it, faced with the many setbacks we've had to face. But we never stopped working. We never stopped trying to find ways out. We never stopped believing we had a future, defending what we had built. We have 125 years of thanks and applauses that we owe to all the people who were there, who believed in us, who devoted their lives so that Turin startup from back then could today become Stellantis, one of the largest car manufacturers in the world. And I would like to give them a warm round of applause on your behalf. I am very grateful for all we've done together, and especially for what we will continue to build together. Thank you very much, and a very happy birthday, Fiat.